All right. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. I'm here with Marci Hendriks. She is a tennis pro in the Chicagoland area, in the western suburbs. She used to be, I think, before a Score tennis club. She always has worked with a lot of very good players. Some of these players have gone into Duke, Stanford, Notre Dame. She has been the Fed Cup coach for the 18-year-old girls from the United States. So she's a very accomplished tennis coach, and she's been here for a long time. Also, she was serving for the U.S. Midwest Tennis Coaching Commission. So anyway, Marci, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy coach. So anyway, my first question to you, because the reason why I wanted to contact you and I thought about you first, because I've seen you and I heard you for a long time, but I work in a lot of clubs. I never worked with you, and you work with a lot of girls. That's the memory that I have. When I think of you, I think of somebody very successful with a lot of girls. So tell me,
Mhm.
in your eyes, what is the difference between working with girls and boys? There is any difference for you?
And there's definitely a difference.
Okay.
I've also had the privilege to work with quite a few good boys.
Yes.
I would say here lately, I've probably worked with more girls, but I do still, work
Yeah.
with a lot of boys. And I think their personalities are very different. Obviously, the men's game is very different from the women's game. So you kind of have to be knowledgeable of both sides. I've never want to be put kind of in a corner of being
Yeah.
just the girls coach.
No, no, no. Yes. Yes. And
So
my goal was not to that, but I just,
right,
you're a very successful women's coach. In Chicago, there are not that many, if you want to,
right, right.
that's
Yeah,
why,
thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I take pride in that and have loved working with so many talented players, and I'm really blessed to have met so many awesome people in the community, and I love it. It's been a privilege to do this job and to be a part of these kids' life. I think as a coach, you sometimes see them more than their parents see them.
Yeah.
And you become more than just teaching forehands and backhands. Being a coach is really being all aspects of their life
Yeah.
and helping them navigate not only just through the journey of tennis, but lots of life lessons too. And I
Yeah.
think that good coaches have to address those things and help the kids navigate through that. So yeah, I've been blessed to be a part of it for 30 years in the Chicagoland area, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, between approaching the girls tennis and boys tennis, you mentioned there are some difference. What are the difference for you? Let's say when you see players, what would you do a little bit different with the boy
Mhm.
compared to a girl?
Okay, so first of all, guys are pretty consistent when they come out
Oh,
um
okay, okay,
just attitudes, like what you're
okay,
kind of getting.
okay,
I would say that sometimes girls, you don't know what's going to walk through the door for the day.
okay,
Um,
okay.
and it's nothing against girls. They're just different,
No, no,
we're
no.
different people.
Well, I'm
So,
glad to hear it from a woman. I'm glad to hear it
yes,
from a woman.
yes, yes.
Okay.
So, but working with guys, we can go through with, the forehand's a little different. Guys have upper body strength, more than women do. Teaching kind of that big serve. I mean, guys have live and die by their serve. So that's always just something that, when you're working with a guy, like that serve has to be there. Also, movement, net game. So those are just big things that guys, we know
Issues.
that men need in order to go on to play collegiate or professional tennis. Um, so you try to incorporate and focus, not that you don't focus on those of girls, but girls can, they move better side to side, where guys move better up and back. And so you focus on those things, and then you may work with a guy moving better side to side, and a girls. I mean, definitely today I'm not seeing enough junior players actually finish points at the net on the female side. And however, if you go watch college matches, college coaches want people finishing points. They want doubles players. They want kids that can
Yeah.
volley and transition. So I would say that, guys have a tendency to kind of transition better and have bigger serves and move forward probably faster. And they just bring a different type of energy. It's not a better or worse energy. It's just a different type. And and I've taught some girls that kind of play like guys, they have that
You
athleticism
do have,
and so everyone's kind of different, but I would say that's probably the biggest difference with the guys and the girls. And at the end of the day, they all need the fundamentals. It's tennis. Yes.
You got to play good tennis, 100%.
Yeah. The head game and the mental part is pretty much the same.
Yep.
So
now you thought, I mean, I've seen, that's why I also like it. I've seen some of your plays. I remember one little girl, Hannah Marks. She was very good. I mean, very talented, but she was very technical. And I know you worked with her for a long time. So I wanted to ask you this. When you think of a player in general, let's say we go from age 10 to 16, let's say, where it's most of the time the age that you're kind of working with. What for you is the most important thing? Is it the mental? Is it the technical? Is it the physical? What do you think is the most important thing for you?
That, obviously the kid has to have the interests, if they have to mentally be invested. And you take, like, I work with a really good 9-year-old right now.
Okay.
And, how invested is a 9-year-old? Well, we make it fun. But the most important thing, I think, early on is to get the right fundamentals.
Okay.
I always use the analogy that it's tough to put a roof on a house without any walls.
Yeah.
So we know, and as working with lots of juniors and doing your thing, that if the kids don't have the right strokes, swing paths, and grips, those fundamental things, it's really tough to get them to that next level. And so for me, I think that that's with the physical part too, especially early on,
is what
getting that footwork and the plyometrics and stuff like that. I think you can teach fundamentals and footwork at the same time. So those are probably the two most important things that.
There you go. Very simple.
Yeah.
Now, Marci, in your eyes, so let's say you step back and you have to think of a coach. For you, in what are the most important characteristics of a coach? You sit back, you gotta watch, you're running a club, you gotta get coaches to develop players, or players that are gonna go somewhat to college. Maybe they will be D3, maybe it will be D2, but they will be college players. What would you want on a coach?
I think you need a coach that, first of all, man, is going to give you 100%.
Okay.
Even on their bad days.
Okay.
I think that I would want a coach that is constantly educating themselves, constantly trying to learn. I know that that's something through the years that, I always think I'm a good tennis pro this year until last year. Or until the following year.
Very good. Yes.
You understand? So, I'm like, gosh, I wish I knew that last year. So I'm constantly trying to educate myself, and I've learned so much from so many great players and coaches. And I played a lot of junior tennis and was been on the trenches of both sides of that.
Yeah.
So I need a coach that I would want a coach that, again, is just going to give me 100%. You get paid the same whether you try or not try. And I think just that's something that's super important, is one that's just going to come out and give me as much energy as I would want to give them, and is knowledgeable about the game. Is going to lead me down the right path. Yeah.
So now, Marci, I remember you used to run programs even in Downers Grove and around the area where you had a large group of kids.
Yeah.
What do you think is what you offer that a lot of junior kids and a lot of kids like to come to your groups? What is what you do that you, or what you think you do different compared to other people? Because you have larger groups and you have had for many years. It's not 1 year and boom, out. You've been around. So what do
Yeah.
you think is your thing that you bring to the table in those groups that a lot of people love it?
Yeah. I think that probably, I mean, I've always been pretty good at running large groups.
Okay.
Early on when I was at SCORE, I mean, there were days we had 45 kids on 8 courts.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not ideal, but we still were able to produce, top nationally ranked
Yes, you did.
women and men. So I think just being able to understand that, okay, in this 3 hours or 2 hours, what do we need to be doing at this time to make the kids better? For instance, now we're working more on strategy and just kind of understanding periodization as we phase out to outdoor tennis. We're going to talk about wind play and work on our endurance and stuff like that. So I think that's appealing, just understanding maybe kind of, um, the periodization and where they are in the summer. Also, I mean, I've kind of known to be a technician. I
Okay.
can I can kind of look at some things maybe and say, oh, hey, maybe your left arm's dropping too early on this, or, you know, um, I can kind of help kids even in the midst of a class, give
Tell
everyone
them
kind
this
of a
is your problem.
purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that that's maybe appealing. And then something else that, I've always kind of done is, and I feel like every kid has a responsibility in that class to make each other better.
Okay.
And I hold the kids accountable. I can go and you can start with Hannah Marr and just say,
Yeah.
when Hannah was young, she would hit with girls like Meg Kowalski and Emma Jackson. And so, and then when Emma Jackson, got older, she's hitting with girls like Riley Lepsy and Jessica Kowalczyk. And so it constantly, they're just always, yeah. So I think you have that responsibility to, when you go out into a group, not only does your energy and your attitude need to be there, but like we have a responsibility to make each other better. And some days you're going to play up, some days you're going to play down, but we all have got stuff we're working on. So that's kind of
Yeah.
my
So I
ideal
see.
group.
I see. So when you so give me, I mean, so let's say you had 2 hours of group, and I'm asking you this question because I think you're really good at this because I heard a lot of people about your groups. That's why I'm asking you this. So let's say you get 2 hours group. Do you start with dead ball? Do you start with feeding balls? All the time is self-fed. How do you kind of structure? It's all match play. Jack, I worked next to Jack for a long time, and Jack say, listen, man, we're just playing sets here. You know, and let's say Steve Wild, he will do 15 minutes of tossing, 20 minutes of light ball drill, and that will be pretty much that. Then last half an hour match. How is your structure, if you have any structure? Do you,
I think that each week I have kind of a lesson plan and idea of going into the class, kind of where our focus is. But we always start with a dynamic warm up.
okay.
Um, I don't believe that you need a long dynamic warm up. I think that
Yeah.
you can. I mean, it's 2 hour class. You don't want to spend 20 minutes doing a dynamic warm up,
No,
and
not too
some
much.
places I've seen that. So we do our dynamic in about 5 to 7 minutes, and then we start off with the same warm up. We start off slicing. Sometimes you will go straight ahead. Sometimes we'll do a cross court warm up. We'll go halfway back, all the way back, and then we will have one side come in and hit volleys from that service line, working on the first volleys, and then incorporate some overheads, and the other side does the same. So we get through that warm up in about 10, 12 minutes.
Okay.
So and then after that it kind of depends on, I believe in a combination, kind of more like Steve is. I think you need rapid, sometimes just complete dead ball feeding, if especially if you're working on something in particular, whether it be a stroke or footwork. You need someone just hand tossing or just feeding from across the net, so you can just get used to that, and then you can kind of phase into more live ball. So I do a combination of both. We do live ball, we do drills, we do, fun games, doubles. I try to incorporate, a lot of doubles even into my classes, just to get the kids used to getting up to that net and transition. We work a lot on approach shots and first volleys. I think that's something that we could do every class.
Every class.
Um,
There you go.
yeah. So depending on kind of what we're focused on for, the day, it may be inside out forehands. And so we may have one court where a pro is just feeding, dead ball feeding inside out forehands, going over the footwork with it. And then why the other maybe 8, 10 kids are with a partner working on them, more live ball, and we're rotating around. So I like a combination of match play and drills.
Very good. So now, there are some coaches that are all about the process, and there are
Yeah.
some coaches that are more result driven. Kind of, if you have to pick a stand,
Yeah.
where are you? I mean, are you,
Yeah.
w-
I mean, listen, I'm
and
definitely
you're
all about the,
successful. That's why I'm interested because
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I'm all about the process. I think that you have to go through the process in order to get the results that you want. Um, and every kid has a different process.
I
And that's
never get it.
something, and that's something that I'm sure that you've gone through as a coach too. Like we've learned as we've,
Yeah,
started teaching more and more. It's just every kid is so individualized, even how I speak to them. Some kids I can, and that's the benefit, by the way, of staying with a coach for, a long time. Most of the kids that I've taught, I started very young, but you form this relationship of I know when to push, but I also know when to pull back. And I think that's part of the process on my end and also on their end. But yeah, I'm a process person.
okay.
You got to get
Yeah.
your fundamentals. You got to mentally kind of go through the ups and downs. And I believe that, whether it be the coach, the player, the parents, everyone has to play their role.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. I always say I work just as hard with my parents as I do with my
Yeah,
students.
100%. So yeah, so my question, I guess you kind of brought it. Some coaches are listen, get that parent out of my court. I don't want him to talk to the kids. I don't. What is your vision? Do you want your parents? You basically tell me you want your parents kind of involved in the process. You don't mind them on the court.
Well, I really don't prefer them on the court.
Okay.
That's not it, but I do involve them in the process because they're an important part of it.
Yeah.
I can't go to a ton of tournaments all the time,
Yeah.
and they're with their kids, after a great win or a bad loss. And I want to make sure that I'm able to do my job as far as, talking to that player. And I just think as a parent, they need to understand their role is to, first of all, be the biggest supporter,
Be supportive.
and I'm not saying that's easy. I know that's
No, no,
hard.
no, no, no. I agree with you.
you
I
know,
agree with you.
um,
Yes.
but I think that I want the parents to be part of the process, and understand that, hey, this is what we're doing, or this is what we're working on. And sometimes they're going to get worse before they get better with it. I think that it's important for the player in order to have a really good journey.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Makes
I
sense.
like involving the parents into it. And, I have been very fortunate for the most part to have
Yeah.
great parents. And, but again, it's been, they're learning just like the kids are learning. So, and I
100%.
try to educate them as well.
100%. It's true. You're saying that because I think many times I mean, people talk about it, but we don't realize they are learning. They have no idea what
Right.
they're going
Absolutely.
through. Yeah, and
Right.
especially the ones that haven't been tennis players themselves or athletes high level, they know
Right.
what's happening. So now another question for you. So
Okay.
when you had a lot of kids that end up being really good, what is talent for you? When you say, hey, maybe Hannah Mark was talented, was Nida Hamilton talent? I mean, different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Way different. Yeah.
Way
Yeah.
different. So what is talent
What
for
is
you?
Well, talent for me, I mean, some kids are just naturally gifted with, maybe height or strength or quickness. Um, Obviously we can all get faster.
Yeah.
Talent also comes in the mental capacity of whether you can, problem solve or whether you can withstand the pressure that comes with playing at a high level. Um, I always, what I've seen is hard work always supersedes talent.
Okay.
I've had a lot of talented kids that, you know, um, through the years that didn't take advantage of their talent. They just
Yeah.
didn't put the work in on the courts. If you have the talent and the kid that works hard, then you have a champion.
Yeah, you got a
And
champion.
so, but I will tell you, you someone like Nita Hamilton, I mean, she was a great athlete. She really was. But, you know, her hard work, she worked so hard on the court and put in the hours and the time and was very coachable. And the same thing
Very
with
good.
Hannah Marr, who was outstanding athlete.
Outstanding.
Um,
Yes.
yeah. And then, I remember I worked with Robert Steinman for a long time.
Okay. You
He
did.
ended up
Okay. I
playing
didn't
for
know that.
Stanford. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
played
I
for
know that.
Stanford. And, early on, he was just kind of this lanky kid and his brain and feet weren't connected. And, I wouldn't say he was the best athlete out there. But my goodness, that kid, again, he was so coachable and had the ability. He was mentally strong. He played smarter than most people. Um, and but his work ethic was, unmeasurable.
Okay.
So he
Ah.
went and played for Stanford. I'm sorry,
Yes.
and
Yes.
had a great career. And so for me, it's many things, but
It's
you
many things.
got to put in the work. You got to
You
put in
got
the
to.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you also mentioned that you're always trying to become a better coach. So and every year you learn something different. What are the last two or three things you learn? What is the last two, three things you learned this past year, let's say?
This past year,
Ah,
okay.
this is good. And
Yes, yes. So one of the things that I have been working a lot with my students on is, just really loading more with the legs. Um, I when I watch the pros, I mean, not that I didn't know that the kids should load with the legs, but a lot of times we get are stuck. A lot of pros just looking from the hips up, and I've been focusing more on the hips down with the footwork and the legs, and just loading more and getting that good wide stance and balance.
yeah,
That's something that I think is super important. So just more focus has gone to that. And
good.
then I think also with everyone, just developing just all different types of serves, being able to hit, a kick serve, a flat serve, a top spin, a slice serve, and understanding when you step up to the line to have a purpose with that serve. So what are you going to do with that? Have an idea. So I would say, like, on the technical side, that's probably the couple things that I've really
That it
focused
changed a
on
little
this.
bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
As far as mental, it's just getting the kids to believe in themselves. I mean, I think that just that self-belief is so important. And
Yeah.
that's always tricky because
That's
every kid's
always tricky.
different.
So now, I heard from a couple of college players that did interview that they're coaching now in college. They mentioned that one of them, that was a decent player. He mentioned, man, I just didn't believe in myself. The other one, a little bit more successful, he said, I just couldn't handle sometimes pressure. And one of them mentioned that he felt that the junior tennis was kind of easy mentally that compared to when he went to college. Why do
Yeah.
you think that happens? What do you think that he should have done better, or what we could do better? And also, I'm going to speak for some of my kids. I got a lot of
Yeah.
kids that by the time that they got to 16, when they figure out, okay, I'm going here, they don't want to play tournaments anymore.
Right.
They're like,
They
well,
check out.
done, right? And I don't know if you run into those situations, but I experienced that with a lot of them, and they go to coach, well, it's too hard, they're pushing you too much. How can we get the kids prepared better for for college, or how do you do it? You know, because Hannah Marks, I'm sure she did 4 years probably at Duke, right? And
Yes. Yeah.
and she played probably high in the lineup, and she was a tiger. She was literally a tiger.
Yes.
I mean, remember by seeing her a couple of times. I mean, it was impressive. So, but not everybody's like that, right? But if there is a way to get them closer to that, how would you suggest that is the route?
You know, looking at the big picture, I always tell my kids, you just have to keep your eye on the big picture. So, if your goal is to go into college and, play six on the team, well, you still have to make that sixth position, and if you're going to a school that, if you're going to North Carolina and you're going to play six, you still have to be pretty, you have a lot of work to do, right?
Yes.
So I think that we want to, no one wants to go to a college and sit on the bench.
Nobody.
So one thing that I just remind the kids, and I've had 3 kids commit this year, and it's just like, hey, you've got still a summer to work, or maybe another year to work on things. You still got changes to make, things you could get better, because you go out in college, and I think now you're not just playing for yourself, your team's depending on you. So I think you just remind them of that sometimes, and let them know that it's no fun losing, that point, that last point that you needed, that fourth point.
Yeah.
And and it's no fun to being told that, hey, you're not going to play today. So I think that you once you get into your college, it's like, hey, you want to make that lineup.
Yeah.
So the kids, you hope that the kids by that age, they've had enough experience where they know they're self-motivated, but you're right, not all kids are.
No. I mean, and some of the college coaches that I have the chance to interview, they said, man, a lot of times the kids are not ready for the pressure that they're gonna receive. So I was wondering if you suggest something compared to other kids. But I mean, I think what you just said, keeping the eyes on the big picture of what's gonna happen, because it's just harder. I mean, the reality, it gets harder as you get older, right?
I mean, for sure. I mean, especially, collegiate tennis.
Yeah.
You're going in and whatever level you're playing out, there's just not going to be a lot of easy matches. You're going to have to come out and bring your best and be 100%, whether you're injured or tired, or, your boyfriend broke up or your girlfriend broke up with you. Like, you kind of got to separate those arenas and really just focus on the tennis. And but again, I think that's part of the process early on that you try to install, so that when those kids get to that level and get to that point, that you hope that they're, I always say as a coach, the number one thing I can do for you is to teach you how to coach yourself
100%.
and how to motivate yourself. That's my ultimate goal. Like, you have to be able to make those adjustments. No one's going to be standing behind there doing that. So that's part of the process, and I guess that's one of the reasons I think the process is important.
Yeah, very good. So Marci, what what do you think about, obviously, because you have kids from very young and too much later in life, how do you like the orange and green and all those balls? Do you think we need those balls, or do you think it's a waste of time, we should go straight to yellow? What's your philosophy? You got me? I think it freezed the image, but I don't know if you got what I said.
No, I didn't. It froze. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. No worries. So there is the orange and the green and the red ball and the spongy ball. I didn't grow up with that. We were just yellow ball, boom.
Right.
Us too. And I think Bjorn Borg and all those guys, there was not. Do we need those balls? We don't need those balls. I mean, what you think?
Oh goodness.
I know I'm throwing you here. You're in the club, but
no, that's fine. I think there's some really good things that has come from it. I think the biggest mistake that we do with these balls is we hold kids back too far. So, we base everything off of age versus, ability.
Okay.
So, not all 9-year-olds are built the same. Not all 11-year-olds or 10-year-old, so everybody develops at a different rate. And, so I think that, maybe having, learning to hit on a green dot ball early on maybe will help you maybe not go so far Western because it's not bouncing so far over your head. It could help with grip changes and stuff like that. But I see pros and cons with it, but I just think that some kids are just held back a little too far for I've seen kids, in green dot classes that are like almost 11 years old. And I'm thinking, boy, you should be playing in your first year of 12s,
Yeah.
if they have that ability. And so I think it just totally depends on the kid,
Totally
some kids it's
depends on
been
the
great
kid.
for and their abilities and,
So you mentioned basically the question is not holding them back, and sometimes we hold them back a little bit too much on a ball with a different color instead of going into the real ball. Okay,
right.
very
So
good.
it's individualized.
I like it. I like your answer. Very good, Marcy. So now the other thing I wanted to ask you, uh, when you see players, that seems to be more talented, for you, do you know what is what you think that they have? There is anything you feel they have, obviously come in different ways, but there is something that you can pick or not really?
I mean, definitely there's certain things like, athleticism. When I see a kid that's athletic, like very athletic maybe height,
Okay. And height. But you're not
I
short. Are you short? You keep mentioning height, but you're not
I
short,
know,
you
I
know?
know.
Yeah.
I've taught a lot of short kids though.
Okay, okay, okay.
Hannah was on the
Okay,
shorter side, Meg
okay,
Kowalski, and Emma
okay.
Jackson, but um
Yeah.
I think that, I saw walking into the club the other day, I saw a girl that was pretty tall and I looked at her and I said, hey, how old are you? And she said 11. And I was like, oh, that's awesome.
That's
You
awesome.
know?
Come here.
Yeah.
We're gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she was
Okay.
taller than me. And
Okay.
so, but as far as like talent, I think that just a kid that is coachable,
Okay.
that's so important.
Coachable.
And,
Okay. Oh, yeah.
yeah. So, and then a kid that just also just can fall in love with the process.
Okay.
You can't have a kid that's not into it or being forced to do it. So
Now this is a question for you as a player. First of all,
okay.
I don't know what you were as a player or not, but what what you think you didn't have as a player? Because I find that most of the time what we don't have as a player, we want to have it as a coach because you say, God damn it, if I
Right.
this, what was for you? What was
Um,
the limiting thing?
I think for me was footwork. I
Footwork?
think I would have been a better player if I'd had better footwork.
Okay.
Um, I had some health issues as a kid. I have
Where do
Crohn's
you
and
grow up?
ulcerative colitis. I grew up in Indianapolis.
Oh, in Indiana.
So
Okay.
yeah. So I worked with Jeff Smith,
Okay.
um,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
from Smith Tennis,
Yes.
and he was great. He's was like a second father to me. But looking back, I think that if I'd been I moved better. Um, and I don't know if looking back at my mindset, I feel like as a kid back then, there were days I was just really didn't feel well.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's probably one thing that stands out is,
Okay.
as a players that would have helped me, you know.
Where do you play college tennis? Do you play college tennis? What do you?
I played at Purdue
Oh, okay.
University.
Okay. So
Yes.
you're a very good player. A very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now asking you, if you go back to when you started to coach, okay,
Okay.
what would you tell to that guy or that woman?
Oh my
What would
goodness.
you tell her? What would you tell?
Um, I would tell them that just because you're a great player will not make you a great coach. I learned
Okay.
that lesson really fast.
Okay.
I remember I first started off with an office job. I was originally just done with tennis, and then I
Okay.
sat in an office for 8-12 hours, and I was like, I can't do this. I'll
Okay.
teach tennis until I find something.
Okay.
So I went and started teaching tennis,
Okay.
And, I thought because I was a good player, I was just like the best coach that walked out there,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Okay.
looking back, at those days now, it's just like, oh gosh. So
Okay.
I would say educate yourself. Just keep educating and becoming better each day.
Okay. Yeah. Now, because you're involved with the USTA and all that,
Yeah.
what I mean, again, what do you think that they could do a little better for the kids, for the tennis in the kids?
Yeah. I feel like such a long question, but I'll try to be brief with it.
Yes,
So,
yes,
I've, like I said, taught over probably 25, 30 USTA camps, regional camps,
yes.
sectional camps. Um, and those were always so great because it was an opportunity not only to bring the best kids from your region or your section together, but also we educated the parents. The parents didn't, there was a lot of stuff for them to do. And I feel like we've stopped doing that.
Okay.
The education is not there, it's not available. I feel like the USTA has put their money somewhere else.
Okay.
Um, and it's you can go to just tournaments now and it's just way different than what it used to be, again, it's
How is it
the
way
pair
different? Because I many times I
I
used to go to
uh,
tournaments with some,
honestly, I
but
see kids like behavior wise,
oh,
whether it be um and it's mostly, I would say, by the time the kids get in the 16s and 18s, it's pretty somewhat controlled, but if you
yeah,
go to, like a 12s or 14s, a lot of times, and this is not every, by any means, every tournament, every
no,
parent,
no, no,
and again, we're all learning together, but
yeah,
you got parents arguing with their kids on the court, the kids are rolling around. I mean, sometimes I go to a tournament and I'm like, this is crazy, and it's just we've stopped educating, we've stopped explaining, why your kids should not be looking up at you after every point,
yeah,
and they should only have one battle on the court, and that's just their opponent. But now kids go out and I feel like they're battling their parents, they're battling themselves. The person next to them is either grunting too loud or the referee. I mean, there's just so many, and
so
it's just
many
like,
things.
just play, let them play and let them go through the process and learn, and we can all do our jobs that way. And I just feel like we've lost a lot of that.
Now, another question, I'll let you go after this one. And I asked this to Jerry Carson because there is a couple of older guys that I know that they told me that tennis was better before when we were coaching, so than it is today. So, what do you think that there is any difference between 30 years ago in Chicago compared to today? Is it the same? Is it better? What do you think?
Well, I think, like every section, you go through your ups and downs. I would say Chicago right now is not loaded with the amount of talent that we had been
In the
for
past?
years. I mean, people would always say, "Oh, you have to go to Florida or California to train in order to win national tournaments." And you and I both know that kids from Midwest were pulling out gold balls from
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah,
We
yes,
were winning Kalamazoo and hard courts and clay courts and stuff like that. Even when I did, the team stuff for the Midwest or the Fed Cup, I mean, we were coming in first or second out of all the sections, and these were the top kids in the nation.
yeah,
And so, we weren't playing outside tennis for, 12 months out of the year.
yeah.
So, but right now I think Chicago is in a little bit of a slump as far as talent wise. But
Okay.
also I think that again, it's the lack of education, whether it be with the coaches or with parents. I also think that just in general, kids are turning to a lot of team sports too. Um,
There is less kids, right? I feel like
yeah,
because I
yeah,
here 2007 to today, my impression is there are less kids really playing a lot of tennis. Maybe once a
right.
week, a lot of kids, but a lot of kids, a lot of times a week, I don't see as many kids as I think they used to be. That's my impression.
Agree. Yeah, I totally agree. It's just, um, or they again fell into the, oh, if I want to be good, again, I've got to go to an academy. in Florida or whatever. And
Yes.
so, so I think Chicago, just our whole section in general right now, is in a little bit of a slump, but I also see great younger kids coming up. I think I know that the other coaches around in the area and in our section that are working with some great younger kids. And so hopefully soon in the next few years, we're going to see, a lot more talent coming about.
Yeah. All right, Marci, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to hear your answers, very thoughtful. So I will put it on. I'll send you the link to you. That way, if you want to share it, I would love for you to do that. And it was awesome to hear your stuff and nice to meet you. We never got a chance to chat.
I know.
Okay.
Yes. Well, thank
right.
you so much for your time, and I appreciate
problem.
everything you're doing.
All right.
Thank
No
you.
problem, Marci.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.